as part of their debt ceiling negotiations, Republicans are demanding even larger military budgets than before. Now, House Republicans are basically demanding an increase in the budget to the Pentagon, even as they continue to push for steep cuts in social spending programs of, the programs that I've highlighted in previous videos. So now, according to Common Dreams, the GOP demand was reported over the weekend after Republican negotiators rejected a White House offer to freeze both military and non-military spending, an idea that congressional Republicans previously appeared open to in exchange for a debt ceiling increase, causing talks to break down. Well, look, as I've said before, this is the debt ceiling negotiation is theater. They're going to come to an agreement because the stock portfolios of all these Congress people depend on it. So, yes, all of this is kabuki theater, and I'm afraid as a result of this, we're going to end up getting more military spending as well. And this is just setting the stage for that. Nonetheless, Republicans are saying is, well, we would like to have massive cuts in social programs, but more funding when it comes to the military. Now, Republicans also, according to Politico, demanding work requirements for SNAP recipients that are more rigid than those originally proposed, and insisted on adding new immigration provisions to the GOP's recently passed border bill, while dismissing White House proposals to cut prescription drug spending and close tax loopholes exploited by the rich, which again, they were never going to do anyway. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders, who is urging Joe Biden to act unilaterally using the 14th Amendment, saying that, basically we have to pay the debt. It's constitutionally required that we pay the debt, so let's just do it. Let's just go and do it without Republican approval. He wrote, Republicans in D.C. are pushing for a massive increase in the $858 billion Pentagon budget, a $1.8 trillion tax break to people who inherit over $1 billion, and a $3.5 trillion extension of Donald Trump's tax breaks. And then added, oh, did they tell you how very, very concerned they are about the deficit?
Really?
It's the classic Bernie Sanders snark, which I have definitely come to appreciate. I love it. But and he's right, though. Republicans at this point are so comically evil when it comes to what they want. So, cut aid to poor people, which already has been massively rolled back. There are other reports of people that are, currently on the SNAP program, receiving SNAP benefits, having to massively roll back the amount of spending that they do on food. So, they're out there, they're not only, like I said, working, because 41% of all SNAP recipients work or in families that have income from their jobs. And still, they're like, I don't know, we're having to cut, cut spending. We still have inflation to deal with, so we've got even less to work with. And now, because of all these pandemic, since the pandemic is no longer considered an emergency, well, now we don't get this additional SNAP funding. So they're hurting. Average Americans are hurting, and Republicans are like, let's twist the knife. Let's twist it even further. Again, comically evil, literally trying to be the worst person, the worst people in the world, and they're actually doing a very good job of being villains. Now, in order, look at the math, okay? Because in order for Republicans to achieve their stated spending reduction goals, non-military spending would have to be slashed aggressively. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities had estimated that cuts to other federal programs, from housing to childcare to medical research, would be enormous if military spending and veterans' health care were spared. Which, by the way, veterans' health care should not be at all on the table. At all. I'm not going to be one of those leftists that are like, oh, we should screw the vets. Yeah. No. Everyone deserves health care. Everyone. No, did I stutter? Everyone deserves health care. It is a human right. Especially when you consider how a lot of members of the military are people who basically went in because of the poverty draft, where they would aggressively target, communities that are struggling with struggling people. Black and Latino specifically communities. Hey, well, you're not going to have much here, but don't worry, we'll pay for your college, we'll pay for all this stuff. And yet, I think it was an E5, gets paid $19,000 a year, and also has to have food stamps to survive. So, but wait, if we're giving all this money, $858 billion to the military, where's it going? Well, it's not going to the troops. It's not going to veterans or their health care. No, I'm going to tell you exactly where it's going here in a few minutes as we go further. But first, these cuts would be enormous, 33% in 2024, and would rise to 59% cuts in all of their spending by 2033. And that analysis did not include the additional spending that Republicans want to heap into the Pentagon. So again, no child care, no health care, but all of the defense industry, they're going to get a lot of welfare, billions in contracts. And that goes to the contractors and their shareholders. And by the way, a 60 Minutes investigation recently examined private military contractors have been price gouging the American taxpayer. Now, it says the Defense Department, but who funds the Defense Department? We do. Back in the early 2000s, under Bush and the War on Terror, because of that, by the way, the Pentagon said, oh, all you different defense contractors, go ahead and consolidate. And by the way, while you consolidate, we're just going to allow you the ability to monitor yourselves. You're going to go ahead and regulate yourselves. Somehow that'll cut costs. Did that work out? No. Unsurprisingly, with no rules, they took their now consolidated status, going from somewhere around 31 companies to 5 mega corporations. And what did they do? Well, they colluded and price gouged. And that's it. Wow, big surprise. So let me show you how much it has increased. Back in 1991, a shoulder-fired Stinger missile cost $25,000. Now, I think I look at $25,000, I'm thinking, wow, how many kids could you feed for that? And that was back in 1991. With Raytheon now the sole supplier of Stinger missiles, it costs more than $400,000 to replace each missile that is sent to Ukraine. So, $400,000. Even accounting for inflation and some improvements in technology, or let's be honest, lethality, that's a 7-fold increase in the cost. $400,000 each missile. I mean, that's insane. Now, how do we know this? Well, former executive vice president and chief contract negotiator for defense giant Raytheon, Shay Assad, went and spoke to 60 Minutes and said, quote, for many of these weapons that are being sent over to Ukraine right now, there's only one supplier, and the companies know it. And adds that the gouging that takes place because of that is unconscionable. It is unconscionable. He further on goes to say, quote, they need to be held accountable. No matter who they are, no matter what company it is, they need to be held accountable. And right now, that accountability system is broken in the Department of Defense. And look, he is absolutely correct. Look, the reason that it's broken is because we have a military-industrial complex and a system which allows corporations to give unlimited money to politicians in independent expenditures. That's our system. That's our system. I wouldn't say that it's broken. I would say that it's working exactly as certain people intend. These corporate executives are making bank. And so the politicians that continue to give them more and more money. We see increases every year of the military budget, while everything else ends up either not getting changed or cut. And that's it. They lobby and get whatever they want. Profits. That's what they want. Profits off weapons that they are creating to kill people. This is comic book levels of evil. If you were to look up evil in the dictionary, there should be the definition. Price gouging for and then for weapons of war. And then, allowing those weapons of war to be used on people, on other human beings. And many times, many cases, what we've seen with drone strikes, innocent people, people at weddings. So look, these corporations don't need any more money. What they need is to be broken up. We have a monopoly going on here, and nobody seems to be wanting to talk about that. Break up these giant corporations. Because again, not only do they make money hand over fist, but they also push the country into more conflicts, more wars, more military action, and cause more death. And also, we are the #1 arms producer for the entire frickin' world. And if you're not worried about any of that, well, I mean, fine. Or not fine. Like, kind of a terrible person. But all you care about is money. Well, a Pentagon-backed study released last month found that these corporations, publicly based U.S. corporations in the defense industry, are financially healthy. The study said they are profitable. They generate substantial amounts of cash beyond their needs for operations or capital investment. The bulk is returned to shareholders so they can invest it elsewhere. They generate total returns to shareholders well in excess of what one might expect given their relative low risk to investors. Bankruptcies or other signs of financial distress are exceptionally rare. Strong financial performance was maintained even during periods of market turmoil. Because when there's market turmoil, well, don't worry. That just means there's, war somewhere else that they can exploit. Because there's always money for war. This is the problem. These companies, they're welfare queens. They're the ultimate welfare queens. They will always get funded while everything else gets slashed to the bone. Because that's what they're doing. Stephen Semler, co-founder of the Security Policy Reform Institute, has estimated more than half of all Pentagon spending between fiscal years 2002 and 2021 went to private contractors that provided the government with military equipment. So you could easily, by the way, cut that in half, which is what I proposed all the time. Cut the Pentagon budget in half. Because it's all about feeding their profits. Break them up, cut their funding. Now, unfortunately, though, none of that's going to happen at the moment because too many politicians, are on the take from these corporations. It's not going to change until we get money out of politics, private money out of politics. And then when we do that, we can cut these budgets and break up these companies. And we can actually defeat the military-industrial complex. But we have to get the money out first.